This video is sponsored by Surfshark. The bad news won't stop coming for Disney and Marvel. Not only has the share price not recovered since the disastrous Q2 earnings call, making matters even worse. Bob Iger recently admitted that Disney has lost $4 billion on their streaming ventures, while Marvel are making an embarrassing retreat in their approach to streaming, as what they were doing clearly wasn't working, as evident by that very $4 billion streaming loss, a big chunk of which is actually because of Marvel. We're about to take a deep dive into both of those, but if you wonder how it's even possible to lose $4 billion on streaming, the reason for that is this. A high-end streaming series, like a Marvel series, costs the same to make as a Marvel movie, only there's no box office and no DVD, Blu-ray sales or even licensing to Netflix to make that money back again. The only way such a series can be profitable is if people subscribe to Disney Plus by the hundreds of millions and stay subscribed. What happened instead was that after an initial growth phase, more and more viewers got fed up with these very expensive but very lackluster Marvel Disney productions. And so they simply cancelled their Disney Plus subscriptions, and they did so by the millions. Now, we don't necessarily recommend anyone doing that, of course, and we certainly don't condone anyone taking to the high seas to get their fix on programming they might miss out on if they do. And that is to say nothing of all the spyware, malware and other assorted tracking software one might run the additional risk of being subjected to out there on the high seas, even beyond normal browsing. There's a fix though. To protect yourself, you need to protect your data, and a good way of doing that is through a VPN, such as the one delivered by this channel's sponsor, Surfshark. A VPN, or Virtual Private Network, is a privacy protection tool which encrypts your online data and secures your personal information, even when you're on a free public Wi-Fi, which is a goldmine for anyone wanting your data. Surfshark masks your IP address so that your location, download history and other data isn't linked to your personal ID, while their Clean Web feature blocks trackers, malware and phishing attempts, enabling you to surf safely. Best of all, unlike some other VPN providers out there, Surfshark does not monitor, track or store what you do online. There's no activity log. In addition to providing online safety, Surfshark also liberates your internet by unblocking blocked websites and enabling you to bypass geo-blocking restrictions by changing the country you access the internet from, which gives some great advantages when it comes to streaming. For instance, you can access 15 different Netflix libraries, all with a different selection of movies and TV series, simply by changing your virtual location. And there are many to choose from, as Surfshark has over 3,200 servers in more than 100 countries around the world. That's pretty good, but it gets even better. If you type in the code MIDNIGHT when ordering, that triggers an exclusive special offer of 4 extra months for free. So secure your privacy with Surfshark. Just head on over to surfshark.deal/midnight to order. Link is in the description. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's get back to Disney's $4 billion streaming loss. Cosmic Book News pulls no punches with their story. Bob Iger confirms Marvel, Star Wars, Disney Plus failure, $4 billion streaming loss. Their source for this is The Hollywood Reporter, which reported Iger's own words from the Moffett-Nathanson Media, Internet and Communications Conference. Only in being an industry trade, they were burying the lead with the title, Bob Iger reflects on Disney's streaming launch. We invested too much. But since that is the original source, let's look at their write-up. Disney CEO Bob Iger gave a mea culpa for big losses incurred while launching streaming platforms like Disney Plus during an investor conference appearance on Wednesday. Oh, did he now? Let's see what mistakes Iger admitted on his part. The story continues. As we got into the streaming business in a very aggressive way, we tried to tell too many stories. Basically, we invested too much, way ahead of possible returns. It's what led to streaming ending up as a $4 billion loss, Iger told the Moffett-Nathanson Media, Internet and Communications Conference during a session that was webcast. Here I'd like to stress that when Iger say we, he means himself only in plural, because no one else made that call. It was his decision to invest so heavily in streaming. He even wrote a book bragging about how it was all his idea and his strategy, and he even detailed how he created a brand new incentive structure to ensure that studio heads like Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy wouldn't try to save anything but really went all out and spent money like drunken sailors on their respective streaming series. Iger did that so that he alone would get all the credit when Disney Plus became the new Netflix. But since that didn't happen, it's now some nebulous we who made that, in retrospect, bad decision. So it's not all Bob Iger. Of course, Iger does accept responsibility for one mistake though, if indeed you can call it that. And he only does that so he can escape blame for many of his other bad decisions, so long-term viewers already know where this is going. The piece continues. Iger addressed a falling out with his hand-picked successor, former Disney CEO Bob Chapek, whose tenure he called out for lavish and misplaced content spending. It was clear to me that our structure was not working, because we were removing accountability from those that were basically investing the most capital, and that was a mistake, he argued. And I want you to note the wording here. The Hollywood Reporter makes it very clear that it was Iger who said this, and that they are quoting him, and they continue stressing this point. Bob Iger said Chapek had moved the profit and loss responsibility to the studio's distribution arm, a move that he, Iger, reversed on his return as CEO in 2022. The reason the Hollywood Reporter stresses so much that these are Iger's words and not their editorial opinion is because they know that what he's saying is misleading. What Iger isn't telling you is that Chapek intended to change contract lengths, so studio heads whose movies fail to perform could be fired much faster and far cheaper for Disney. Something which led to confusion and bruised egos among studio heads that would suddenly be subjected to a whole new level of accountability that they never had experienced under Iger. Deadline Hollywood did a whole story about it at the time, which we have covered many times in the past. Point being, Iger is being disingenuous here. His big mistake wasn't hiring Chapek, it was removing him and then coming back as CEO. He is right about the $4 billion loss though, which is what happens when you incentivize studio heads like Kathleen Kennedy and Kevin Feige to spend as much money as on full theatrical feature films for an exclusive proprietary streaming service where there are absolutely no monetization possibilities beyond what subscribers are paying. And it takes a Netflix-sized subscription base to offset the cost of that kind of productions. Of course, Disney's strategy here could have worked if as many as went to see those movies in theaters when the MCU was in its prime and Star Wars was actually good, subscribed to Disney Plus and stayed subscribed. But for that to happen, those Disney Plus series would also have had to been good, and if it was one thing that they weren't, it was just that, good. And that has led to Marvel having to make what can only be referred to as an embarrassing retreat. Before we get into this next story, some context is needed, because it's being framed as this is what we're doing now, when in reality it's a complete reversal of their entire strategy of the last half a decade. Up until then, there were two divisions producing live-action Marvel outings. It was Marvel Studios, headed up by Kevin Feige, while under Marvel Entertainment, there was also Marvel Television, headed up by Jeff Loeb, and they produced all of the Marvel television series, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to the Netflix series, to Runaways, and yes, even the Inhumans. For all of these, the strategy was that the series were intended to take place in the MCU, so the series would make references to the movies and events in them, but the movies would never reference the TV series or anything that happened in them. You could say that the TV series were canon with the movies, but the movies were not canon with the TV series. And indeed, after Kevin Feige was able to team up with Bob Iger to get rid of Ike Perlmutter and disband Marvel Television, that's exactly what happened, and formally happened at that. All of the Marvel TV series made up till that point were stricken from movie canon. Even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which explicitly takes place between the movies, and which even features a number of cast from the movies, up to and including Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, was removed from canon. None of those ever happened, because Kevin Feige hadn't produced them. Only the Disney Plus series produced by Kevin Feige, beginning with WandaVision, were movie canon, and that they were canon, were pushed to the point where the movies wouldn't make sense without them. Case in point, upon seeing Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, audiences learned that it wasn't the sequel to or for that matter to the prior MCU movie, Spider-Man No Way Home, but to the aforementioned WandaVision, a series that, compared to the size of the movie audience, no one saw. And perhaps even more than it would have anyway. Multiverse of Madness suffered from that. It didn't help the Marvels either that it was a sequel to both WandaVision and Ms. Marvel. And on a related matter, Moon Knight might need a new introduction if they ever plan on bringing him into the movies. And Secret Invasion will give them nothing but trouble going forward. And it's a problem of their own making, because they made the Disney Plus series, even the very worst ones, have the same importance to the ongoing narrative as the movies. At least up until now. ComicBookMovie.com broke the exclusive story that the Marvel Television banner will return, writing, "It has been over 3 years since Marvel Studios branched out into the world of television, telling the stories of characters from across the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a new medium. The grand experiment has evolved in some fascinating ways in the time since, resulting in internet-breaking projects like WandaVision and Loki. Hardly. As well as the forming of the Marvel Spotlight banner for more standalone projects like Echo. This week, during Disney's Upfronts presentation, Marvel Studios unveiled new release dates or windows for its next 3 live-action shows. Agatha All Along, which I've been saying would be the title all along, Daredevil Born Again, and Ironheart. In the process, these announcements revealed the return of the Marvel Television label, which was previously used as the standalone production company behind projects like Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Defenders-verse of shows. So it sounds to me like the Marvel Spotlight banner has already been retired. But after that summary, they go into the real news. While speaking with Comic Book about the recent Season 1 finale of X-Men 97, Marvel Studios head of TV, streaming and animation, Brad Winderbaum, explained the decision to resurrect the Marvel Television label and how it could help future projects be more accessible to audiences. "We want to make sure that Marvel stays an open door for people to come in and explore," Winderbaum revealed. "On the heels of Endgame, I think there was maybe a little bit of an obligation to watch absolutely everything in order to watch anything." Winderbaum doesn't have to merely think this. We know that this was so, and we know it was so by design. Bob Iger wanted to sell Disney Plus, and in order to do so, he wanted every single MCU fan on the planet to sign up for Disney Plus to catch the next MCU outing, because they'd be lost going forward if they didn't. That part of the plan worked well enough, because after the Disney Plus series, the MCU has become about as complex as the X-Men comics of the 90s to keep track of. Problem was, since most of these Disney Plus series were a bunch of filler filled with crap, and the movies were sliding too, then also, like the X-Men comics of the 90s, more and more just checked out of everything, and now they have to adjust to that by going back to what arguably worked better, before Kevin Feige and Bob Iger messed it up. That's what they're crawling back to now, as Winderbaum continues. As you know, as a comics fan, they're designed to just pop in, find something that you like, and use that to enter you into the universe. And then you can explore and weave around based on your own preferences. So that's part of the rebranding of Marvel Studios, Marvel Television, Marvel Animation, even Marvel Spotlight is to, I think, try to tell the audience you can jump in anywhere. They're interconnected, but they're not. You don't have to watch A to enjoy B. You can follow your bliss. You can follow your own preferences and find the thing you want within the tapestry of Marvel. That, of course, is the right course of action. Too bad they had to lose $4 billion worth of shareholder value to find out, and revert back to what Iger and Feige were so against just a few years ago. But are they making this move in time, or is it too late now? Has the MCU already become so complex that the people who checked out can't be convinced to check back in? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And before you go, remember to secure your privacy and bypass quarrelsome geo-blocking restrictions with Surfshark VPN. Type in our code MIDNIGHT at surfshark.deals/midnight to get an exclusive deal of 4 extra months for free. Link is in the description.